So Dr. Kathleen Ronald, our business growth architect, to give you more on productivity.
Clutternomics.
Is it Clutternomics? I think it's business productivity and everything else.
Clutternomics. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Linnell, for having us together with this beautiful event that you've put together. And it's great to see everybody. So I'm curious, when you think of the word clutter, and the topic is Clutternomics, what comes to mind? What's the first thing that you think of?
Junk, a lot of stuff.
Junk, a lot of stuff. What else? Closets and drawers. What else? Trauma. Anyone else think about trauma? Could that be clutter? 90% of my audiences will say physical clutter. And then I heard mental. Yes? Mental? Can that be clutter?
Yes.
Do any of you have currently any limiting beliefs or stories that may be holding you back at this moment? Yeah? So there's mental clutter. I got to train with Tony Robbins for 5 years. So I call myself a mind chiropractor. So literally, your limiting beliefs and stories can keep you in a straitjacket and keep you stuck and keep you in a place that you do not want to be in. And keep you broke, depending on what we're thinking and speaking into existence. And most of us as adults, we're working on childhood beliefs and stories that have yet to be healed, that we have brought in to this time and space that's unhealed. So mental clutter is big. And if you look at the Clutternomics, we're looking at the economics of your clutter. What is the cost to having those limiting beliefs or stories? If you had to put a price on it, I'm sure it would be over $1 million. Wouldn't you guess? How many of you have heard of Byron Katie? Raise your hands. Byron Katie is magical. Write her name down. I have all of my clients study with her. She has a book called Who Would You Be Without Your Story? Who would you be without your story? Another great book I have all couples read, Do I Need Your Love? Is That True? Woo, that is powerful. If every relationship on this planet had to study under Byron Katie, we would have probably a 2% divorce rate. That would be it. Because people wouldn't even step into the relationship unless they knew what the relationship really was. So there's the mental clutter. How about emotional clutter? Anybody? Is anybody dealing with unforgiveness, resentment, hardened hearts? Yeah, right?
I think everybody is.
Yes.
In some way or another.
In some way or another, we're working through this. But I will tell you, since I've been in this work for over 30 years, everything is a vibration to me. Everything has a frequency. Every letter in the alphabet carries its own frequency. There is a woman in Hollywood that probably gets paid $10,000 a baby to name your babies with the highest frequency in their name, to give them the best start in their life. She has a book this thick just on naming babies with a frequency. Now some of you are thinking, whoa, I know we live in LA, but that's really cool. But everything is a frequency. It's like when you watch people walk in the room, you can see the energy they're bringing into the room, can you not?
Yeah.
You can see and feel when they answer the phone. The other day, I literally thought this girl was dying the way she answered the phone. I thought, I'm sorry, are you okay? Are you sick? I mean, it was like, can I help you? And I'm like, excuse me? Can I help you? And I'm like, well, first I want to make sure you're okay. Because energetically, you're like dead. So energy is a big deal. And you want to know what you're bringing into the room. So let's go back to those emotions. How many of you have looked at the book Intelligence, the IQ book, Emotional Intelligence? Yeah? They have a pyramid in there where they talk about frequency. Did you know love is the frequency of 500 megahertz? Joy is a frequency of 600 megahertz. The angels play in 700 to 1,000 megahertz. So my goal is to not, if you have shame and guilt, any recovering Catholics in the room, raise your hand. Okay, I have a few of you laughing. Now, shame, I believe, is 20 megahertz and guilt is 30 megahertz, or vice versa. Let's just go with that. Can you imagine if you're walking into a room with guilt or shame on your heart? Where are you coming into that room? You are vibrating at the lowest vibrational level that you can possibly arrive in a room. When you have anger, guilt, shame, any of it, that vibration comes with you into the room, so you've got to be clear. Before I walk into a room, I'm in prayer out in my car. I call in Archangel Gabriel to come in and do a clean sweep of the entire building. Because emotions are stuck in this chair. This chair could be exhausted. It could have had a 400-pound person in it. It needs a rest. You're thinking, really? Well, if you read Joe Vitale's work, it's quite impressive. Every single thing we speak or do is locked into the walls as a frequency. So take away this point. You want to come into a room at 500 megahertz, 600 megahertz. Just be a joy bubble. That means you got to forgive, you got to let all that other stuff go on the emotional scale and get into what I love. This shirt says, happy thanks living. This is my friend, Miss Angela, and I love that phrase, and I love that her company stands for this. Happy thanks living. When did you spend any time clearing away all the stuff that you didn't have, your bitch, moan, and groan, and really get present to what you have? Truly, we are billionaires in this country. I say everyone should go to a third world country. Like in Guatemala, my friend is the Oprah of Guatemala. She has a school with 300 children and is bilingual. And they all get to go to college. That's her second company. And it's private, bilingual, 300 students. Now there's a reason that I brought that up. Oh, because when I was there working with her, I thought, we forget how blessed we are. We forget we're actually billionaires. We need to clear out all that lower level. I wish I had another flat screen TV or 50 more pairs of shoes. They're lucky to have a flat mat, cardboard, with maybe a cup. Maritza's father was a fascinating man. I got to meet him. He got his first pair of shoes at 14, and he had the education of a second grader. But he ended up being one of the wealthiest men in Guatemala City. Now, if he had a lot of clutter, if he had a lot of stinking thinking, if he had some limiting beliefs and stories, if he wasn't emotionally grounded, if he hadn't cleared out all of that, he couldn't make it from there to the top of the mountain in Guatemala City if he hadn't cleared all that clutter. So I said, Daddy, how do you get from the villages to the top of the mountain with a second grade education in your first pair of shoes at 14? And he said to me, when the eggs would come to the village, they would come wrapped, and the donkey and would bring the flatbed, and the eggs were wrapped in newspaper. And those torn newspaper became my books. And I would read the front and the back of the torn newspapers. And on one of them it said, if you want to make any money, you must get to Guatemala City. And that stuck with him as a young boy. He had no idea the how, right? They talk about that a lot. You don't need to know the how, you just need to have the intention go. And then the how will be presented to you. So he gets married, he has 5 children, no windows in the house for 2 years. Now labor is only $1 an hour, so you can get a lot done in Guatemala. So they had this house, but the happy wife was not a happy wife because she didn't have windows for 2 years. So Lance Romance, the husband, comes home, and she had beaten out one of the placeholders for a window, and she's saying, We need windows. The only place to get windows was El Salvador. So Dad's thinking to himself, I'm not the only person in Guatemala that needs windows. So he said, Kathleen, I figured out how to make them in Guatemala City. So nobody had to go to El Salvador anymore. So he took his limited education with no business means at all, and his 5 children, top of the mountain. He had 6 floors of glass. It was amazing. But can you imagine if he had all that clutter? He could have never done that. So we've identified, we have physical clutter, we have mental clutter, we have emotional clutter, we have body clutter. I've just released 50 pounds. I did a program to go in and heal all of my dis-ease in 3 months. It was a parasite and metal cleanse.
I knew you were looking good, girl.
Ooh, thank you, Don. Thank you, Don. So I had some body clutter to clear. I had some diseases that were not serving me, and I found a program that would heal my entire body in 3 months. Wow. So we took care of the body clutter. Now let's look at your business. I supported a business going from 20 to 30 million. They're now 80 million. How many of you own your own business? Raise your hands. How many of you work for somebody? Okay, we have a few of those. It kind of works both ways, okay? So I want you to think about this. If you were my client, and how many of you that own your own business would you like to double, triple, or quad your income in a year? Raise your hands. Okay, get a clean piece of paper out. I'm going to give you the recipe right now. If you were my client, the first thing we would do is we would look at your business model. What is your business model? I talked to a gal the other day. She had 3 business models, but none of them were viable to make money right now. They were 3 to 5 years. So I said, okay, we got to scrap all these ideas because you're not going to be making the money that you need to make. We need to get you refocused. So, number 1, your business model. 9 times out of 10, every business model I look at is broken. So number 1, we can fix that. Number 2, you want to focus on your top 20% of your clients. Many of you have big hearts. Your Mother Teresa's, your overgivers. Overgivers. You speak before you know. You speak to give, but you don't check in with yourself first, right? Which we need to clear that. So if you look at your client base, 20% of your clients are bringing 80% of your return. Would you agree with that right now? Anybody? Raise your hands. So when I was working with this one particular store, they had 90 brands. It's like, why? Why? Let's look at the 20%. Let's keep those. They have 27 salespeople. If 20% is bringing in 80% of the return, why do we need all the rest of the salespeople? I'm just curious. They're not pulling their weight. Now, if you look at your product line, some of you, if you're in Mary Kay or in your MLM, 20% of your product is bringing 80% of your return. Don't worry about all the other stuff. Focus on your 20%. Now, if we're looking at the avatar of your top 20%, who is your perfect right client? Who is your perfect right client? So you think about somebody you have right now that you love, 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 love. Why do you love them? What are their qualities and characteristics? What are their qualities and characteristics? You want to know this inside and out, so when you meet them, they're glittering, and you're like, oh my gosh, you're my perfect right client. I know that because I know who you are. They want to have enough money to keep hiring you, right? So that's part of your perfect right client. So if you look at that 20% avatar and just duplicate that, literally that 80% needs to be bless them, release them, and let them prosper elsewhere. That's called two-legged clutter. People that you need to bless and release and let them prosper elsewhere. So number 1, you look at your business model and you trim it down. Number two, you look at your perfect right clients and you expand on those. Are you with me? Now, when you have your perfect right client overview, you ask the question, where do they go? Where do these multimillionaires go that I need to meet? Wherever you need to go, that's where you need to be, wherever your perfect right clients are. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions so far? So we get your perfect right client, then you focus on your top 20% in your business. Now, as a keynote speaker, if I'm getting $12,500 for a keynote, doesn't it make sense that I would spend the majority of my time booking keynotes? Go like this. If you're coaching one-to-one, that model is dead too. I love it, and one-to-many is the better model if you can do it. One-to-many, leverage, leverage, leverage. Delegate, delegate, delegate. So you're looking at your business model, you have your perfect right person. Now look at your networking. How many of you network more than once a week? How many are going 2, 3, 4, 5? My question to you is that necessary? For some of you it is, but for some of you, you're over networking. You have yet to do the follow-up from the last networking. And when I teach my course on the fortunates and the follow-up, I say you keep your assets at home if you have not done their follow-up from this event. You don't want to keep going to more and more events to feel like crap more and more because you were not your word. So you have to clear that. Your marketing, if you look at your marketing, a lot of you are doing social media and you don't need to. It's like, where are you getting your clients from? Focus on that and expand that. Does that make sense? You expand your marketing in your 20%. You expand your networking into your 20%. You know who your perfect right client is. Does that make sense? Now, if you focus on that for 1 year, you can double or triple your income. If you just did that. Go like this. Because that's the truth. You would literally be cutting out 80% of what you're doing and focusing on the 20% that's really bringing in the return on your investment. Time is finite. Finite. A lot of us are in our chapter, that final chapter. How do you want that to look? Do you want to be working 12, 14 hours a day? Another big thing with clutter is interruptions. I speak with a lot of organizations. Do you know it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back on task once you've been interrupted? 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get back on track once you're interrupted. There should be non-interruption policies at all of your homes and at your businesses. None of this chitty-chatty, how was your weekend? Well, that employee is now going to sit there for 23 minutes before they're going to get back on track. Who can afford that? Like, don't be talking at the office. Talk at the refrigerator. Say, hey. But people do not know. There's one organization who brought me in and they thought they needed to hire people. I said, no, you don't. We'll just put in a non-interruption policy. Now, if you're working from home, you have to have the discipline of a nun. Okay? You just do. That means you're not watching TV. You don't go to social media. Nothing. When I'm in interrupted time, that's all I do. Is that what is in front of me? I do not have 23 minutes and 15 seconds to get off track and go to Facebook and go, oh, who liked me? Oh, isn't that nice? I feel really good about that. Let's watch me 23 minutes to get back on task. And you wonder where your days go. You cluttered them up. If you were my client, you would be blocking off uninterrupted time so you could focus. So we've covered a lot. I know I'm over time. I have Roz circling. But listen, it's really not hard to double, triple, or quadruple your income. You just need the right strategy to do it. Okay? So Do you want a pair of glasses? Okay, you are the sunshine of every room. Look at you just glowing from here to New York. Did you want? Oh, I loved your costume. I'm gonna give you these because we noticed you and I thought, look at that queen go. You're fabulous. Did you want a pair? Oh my God, okay. I might have some back there. I'll just check. Hey, Dawn. Dawn always does that. Okay. There we go. All right, so let's briefly do this, you guys. Listen, your clutter is costing you so much money, it's ridiculous. The economics of your clutter is ridiculous. What I want you to do is spend an hour a day, or an hour a week, just clearing something. You open a drawer, take everything out. Do you love it? Do you love it, and are you currently using it? If it gets a yes, yes, you keep it. If you're a hoarder, you gotta hire somebody, because you won't let go of anything. So if you love it, and if you're currently using it, keep it. If not, let it go. Why does every company hire me for this topic? I'll tell you why. Because the results are immediate. Immediate abundance. The universe abhors a vacuum. If your phone is full and you can't get any messages, what do you need to do to get messages? You need to clear. Same thing in your home. If every cupboard, if every drawer, if every attic, basement, whatever that is where you're living is packed, you are literally telling the universe, I have everything I need. I don't need anything else. So the universe just passes you. But you open a space and the law kicks in. It must come in. Something must come in. It's not a should. You're not going to be shooting all over yourself. No, something must come in. It could be abundance, it could be a new client, it could be less stress, less frustration, you could feel buoyant. So whatever you're doing, you need to race home. Give yourself an hour this weekend. Clear something out and just feel the joy. I am addicted to space clearing. It is my drug of choice. It is my drug of choice. Because when you clear, you always feel like $1,000,000. So hopefully you've got some points in this quick little exchange and you're ready to go home and clear. I'm giving away a 4.5-hour Zoom training on my biggest topic, Clutternomics. One of you is going to win that today. The rest of you can happily pay me if you'd like. It's an investment that I promise you 10 times, 20 times your investment back. And if you don't get it, just let me know and I'll write you a check. Nobody has ever not gotten their investment back. Ever. Ever. So let's get to it. Okay. Woo-hoo. I love you guys. Thank you. I'm not sure what's happening here, but something's happening. Okay.